The latest instalment in Amnesty International's ongoing crusade against the Jewish state is the genocide lie. In a December 2024 report, the once storied organisation charged Israel with committing genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. This grave charge hinges on the question of intent. Under international law, genocide is defined as certain acts committed with an intent to destroy in whole or part a national, ethnical, racial or religious group. The current war between Israel and Hamas, an unprecedented hybrid of urban combat and tunnel warfare, has taken its toll on civilians. But to make its case of genocide, Amnesty must prove that Israel has intended the physical or biological destruction of Gaza's Palestinians as a group. In its attempt to do this, Amnesty quotes statements by Israeli officials that Amnesty insists expose Israel's intent to wipe out Palestinians. What Amnesty actually exposes is the bad faith and absurdity of its own analysis. Let's take a look at the quotes that Amnesty claims appear to call out for, or justify, genocidal acts. Here's Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant 2 days after Hamas's October 7th massacre. Gallant was obviously referring to Hamas, and his words were hardly unique. US President Joe Biden called Hamas animals. El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele called them savage beasts and animals. Examples of such rhetoric abound, but Amnesty insists that Gallant's remarks were evidence of genocide. When he said the army was fighting animals, Amnesty pretends that he didn't mean Hamas, but Palestinians collectively. Amnesty insists that Gallant's use of dehumanizing language implied that Palestinians were subhuman and therefore undeserving of basic necessities. Gallant was obviously referring to Hamas rather than Palestinians in general, but in case there were any doubt about his meaning, he used the very same words the next day while addressing Israeli soldiers, referencing Hamas's atrocities. Amnesty acknowledges this statement was about Hamas, but bizarrely claims that Gallant's meaning changed overnight, and that in the first instance his words were clearly directed at the entire population of Gaza. Unfortunately for Amnesty, Gallant was consistent in characterising exactly who Israel was fighting. Amnesty's charge that human animals is a genocidal reference to all Palestinians is absurd and unserious. Amnesty manipulated another of Gallant's references to the fight against Hamas. It's a common Israeli idiom to describe the fight against evil, but for Amnesty it's a racist and dehumanizing metaphor.
אנחנו נגיע לכל תשתיות הטרור, אנחנו נגיע לכל המנהרות, אנחנו נגיע לכל פעילי החמאס, ועד שלא לחסל אותם, לא נשלים את המשימה. ואני אומר לכם כאן, זאת תהיה מלחמה עצימה, זאת תהיה מלחמה קטלנית, זאת תהיה מלחמה מדויקת, והיא תהיה מלחמה שתשנה את המצב לתמיד.
Gallant is crystal clear that the war against the children of darkness is a war against Hamas. So the real question is, why does Amnesty have such a problem viewing Hamas, whose genocidal ethos led to the worst slaughter of Jews since the Holocaust, as a force of darkness? Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also referred to a war between the children of light and the children of darkness, and Amnesty characterises this too as racist and dehumanising, and an apparent reference to Palestinians in Gaza as a whole. But Netanyahu's remarks left no doubt about his meaning. He declared, "Our goal is victory, a crushing victory over Hamas," and clarified, Hamas is part of the axis of evil of Iran, Hezbollah and their minions. He concluded, many people around the world now understand who stands against Israel. They understand that Hamas is ISIS, they understand that Hamas is the new version of Nazism. Just as the world united to defeat Nazis and ISIS, so too will it unite to defeat Hamas. So much for Amnesty's apparent reference to Palestinians in Gaza. As further purported evidence for Israeli genocide, Amnesty says that Netanyahu referred on at least 3 occasions to the biblical story of the total destruction of the people of Amalek. Amnesty insists that by evoking Amalek, Netanyahu supposedly called for the total destruction of Gaza, making no distinction between civilians and Hamas as a military target. That's quite a conclusion. But after decisively casting Netanyahu's words as a call for genocide, Amnesty then describes those same words as ambiguous. It is unclear from these statements alone whether Prime Minister Netanyahu intended only to refer to the verses of the Bible that are an injunction to remember the acts of the people of Amalek, or or also to allude to those passages that call for the people of Amalek to be attacked and for none of them, not even children, to be spared. So, Amnesty claims that Netanyahu intended genocide based on a statement whose meaning Amnesty admits to not understanding. Amnesty provides two possible biblical sources for Netanyahu's words, a verse in Deuteronomy which Amnesty says merely orders Jews never to forgive the evil acts of their enemies, and a verse in the book of Samuel which presented God's command to kill all the people of Amalek. Amnesty relays one of Netanyahu's offending quotes as, "Remember what Amalek did to you." It doesn't take a biblical scholar to determine that he was referencing not the verse from Samuel, but from Deuteronomy, "Remember what Amalek did to you." In contemporary Jewish tradition, Amalek has become a stand-in for evil, including the evils of the Holocaust. Calls to remember what Amalek did feature in an exhibit at Yad Vashem, Israel's Holocaust Remembrance Museum, and indeed serve as an inspiration for the museum's very existence. Only seconds after referencing Amalek in one of the statements cited by Amnesty, Netanyahu added, "The IDF does everything to avoid harming non-combatants. I again call on the civilian population to evacuate to a safe area in the southern Gaza Strip." Amnesty concealed that part of his speech, which might have hurt its spurious case that the Prime Minister made no distinction between civilians and Hamas as a military target. Amnesty also alleges that Israeli President Isaac Herzog called for the destruction of Palestinians in Gaza using racist and dehumanizing language that equated Palestinian civilians with their enemy to be destroyed. His remarks implied that all Palestinians in Gaza were legitimate targets that could be either directly eliminated through military attacks or denied access to essential services and humanitarian aid. Here's their evidence.
It's an entire nation out there that is responsible. It's not true. This rhetoric about civilians not aware, not involved, it's absolutely not true.
Here's what else Herzog said in those same remarks, which Amnesty omitted from its report.
So we are not retaliating. We are targeting. We are targeting the enemy in order to uproot the capability of the enemy to carry on with this campaign of destroying Israel, trying to destroy it as part of an empire of evil which has its claws all around us, from north, with Hezbollah, from the south, from Hamas and Islamic Jihad. So Hamas has carried out war crimes, crimes against humanity. It has chosen to conduct its war against Israel, hiding, as always, within populated areas, using the population as a shield, using mosques, shops, houses, anything of civilian lives as their center of activity. And that is why we're operating to uproot this infrastructure. We are very cautious in the way we operate. The IDF uses all the means at its disposal in order to reduce harm to the population. For example, many resources are invested in gathering intelligence, in trying to locate the enemy separately from civilian population, in evacuating the civilian population from the center of the battle, in warning citizens, in monitoring humanitarian situation. But Israel will defend its people and do whatever it takes with an iron fist to change the reality.
So much for equating Palestinian civilians with the enemy to be destroyed. Amnesty's report, which purports to show Israel's intent to commit genocide, fails spectacularly to show that intent, because it does not exist. Amnesty's best shot is trying to convince a gullible audience that Jewish texts embraced by respected Holocaust museums are actually genocidal slurs, and that criticism of Hamas dehumanizes ordinary Palestinians. But it's a sham. All Amnesty has proven with this report is how very far the once respected organization has fallen.